Oh, guys, you saw the thumbnail. The takeaway from this is do not go see Strangers Chapter 1. Just stay home and watch the original. It's much better. It's essentially the same movie. The DNA is all the same. They didn't really do a whole lot of new stuff with this movie. They just made things much, much dumber, much, much more aggravating, and way less tense or scary. There you go. That's the review in a nutshell. That's the main takeaway from The Strangers Chapter 1. And I hate that this movie has rewarded such cynicism. I hate when I see news about a movie or some sort of project announced and I immediately go, oh God, it's just a cash grab. It's going to be freaking awful. There's going to be no artistic merit to that. And then I go and I see it and that happens. It's always nice when you feel like, you know what, I've gotten cold-hearted and calloused. I've been hurt too many times. I've been let down too many times. And then you go see something and you go, holy crap, I slept on this. This director, this writer, they proved me wrong. They found a way to do something really interesting and to throw in some new scares that I haven't seen before. This is something people need to be talking about. No, the only reason people need to be talking about The Strangers Chapter 1 is to say, do not go see it. We don't need Chapter 2 or Chapter 3. You guys lied to us in a big way. All that stuff about you're going to find out who Tamara is, not in this movie. All that stuff about, oh, we were writers possessed. We were so on fire for this movie. There was so much passion pouring out of us that we had a 400-page script. If you guys don't know, movies, it pretty much is supposed to work that for every page in the script equals like a minute of screen time. So you should have then had a like 4-5 hour long Strangers movie or set of movies. And after seeing Strangers Chapter 1, I'm going, where is it? Where's all this new stuff? Where's all this new information, these new ideas? Is it all going to be relegated to 2 and 3? Because this feels like you just photocopied the script for the original movie. You took out a Post-it, you stuck it on there, and you just wrote in pen, do that, I guess. That seems about as much inspiration as there was forged for this movie. So there's going to be spoilers because I don't really know that you can spoil things. Because like I am telling you, if you've seen Strangers from 2008, you've seen Strangers from 2024. The difference is you've seen the much better version of it. You saw the original version of it. You saw Brian Pertino at the height of his powers, a very slept-on horror director who has given us very dreadful, tense, dark horror flicks like The Strangers, like The Monster, like The Dark and the Wicked. For all, please, if nothing else, I implore you, go find The Dark and the Wicked, search that and stream that. That is a good horror movie. That is one that will unnerve you. That is one worth your time, not some lazy studio cash grab that has nothing new to offer. Oh, sorry, there's going to be spoilers, okay? That's what I wanted to get across right there. So this movie opens, we have Madeline Pesh and her boyfriend, and they kind of have some banter going back and forth. And right away, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can like these two more. I do love the original Strangers movie, but you know, those characters, they're kind of bumping heads. There's some friction and they make a few bad decisions along the way. More on that with this movie in a bit. But I was like, maybe if I can just get past Madeline Pesh's overdone lip fillers and I can get past her boyfriend's adamantium jawline, maybe I'll really like these two. Didn't take long to find out that that is not the case. But anyway, let's move on. They eventually arrive into a little sleepy town in Oregon. And right away I realize, oh, when we actually do things that are different from the original Strangers movies, they're just going to be things we've lifted from other recent horror movies. We're going to get as derivative as hell, y'all. Because here, we're doing a very kind of vacancy setup, which is another underrated horror movie. Check that one out. That has Luke Wilson in it, and I believe it's Kate Beckinsale. And they're out on a trip and they're kind of quarreling. They have a little couples rapport. And then what do you know? They have a little car trouble. A rural mechanic pulls up. He acts like he's going to help them. And then what happens? Their car breaks down for good. And he insists they're going to have to take his car to his shop. And they're going to be stranded and have to go seek shelter at a local motel for the night. Sound intriguing? Cool. Go watch Vacancy. Don't watch The Strangers Chapter 1 where the same exact thing happens in the same exact way because they pull up to this little diner. They go in to get food. And this weird-ass grungy mechanic basically sabotaged their car. And it's obvious that he does that. And he has a shop right away across the way. And he's like, I'm going to have to take your car for the night. Sorry. But there's an Airbnb nearby. Same exact setup as Vacancy. So much about the way to do this is like Vacancy. And it's not the last time. So we're aping Vacancy. We're aping Strangers. You're going to see a shot in this movie where one of the, I believe it was Dollface, one of our strangers is out in the driveway, and it's kind of like a little hill with a little winding driveway, and she's out there in the dark silhouetted, and there's all this like blue cool light, and it's the same damn shot from Us, and they go to it over and over again like we wouldn't notice. And while we're talking about derivation, there's all sorts of musical cues. If you will recall, if you've seen the original Strangers movie, there's some really neat use of Merle Haggard's Mama Tried that is actually kind of chilling and adds to a certain level of atmosphere. In this movie, we're doing like Nights in White Satin, which of course makes you just go, oh, that's some Rob Zombie junk right there. I've seen that. I heard that. And so just over and over, you're going, oh, okay, I've seen this movie. And when they actually try to set out and do something different, they're like, see, it's not the same movie. It's not just shot for shot. It's not just the same old song and dance. Dude, it's another song and dance that didn't even come out like 30 years ago. These are actually like modern, still relevant movies. All right. Anyway, back to the story. So our nitwit lovers find themselves stranded, and we're now doing another derivative thing because it's very much like the Wrong Turn remake. They're these sort of very well-off, affluent, very polished, nicely dressed young people who probably have a certain set of beliefs that don't align with the more rural people in the town. Everyone in the town is having all these presumptions about them and eyeballing them. They seem on edge. The new couple seems on edge. All that stuff. It's very Wrong Turn. The difference is the Wrong Turn remake didn't just do that scene and leave it at that. They kind of fleshed out an entire theme. It was like the motif of the movie was that people from different walks of life go into certain situations having all sorts of preconceptions that aren't usually based in reality or are just very unjust and unfair. No, this movie is just like, I saw that. That's a cool idea. We're putting fancy city people into a little tiny rural town with just a few hundred people. We'll do the Wrong Turn thing. Anyway, I'm sorry. I said I was going to talk about the plot. So anyway, they finally make it to the Airbnb, and at this point, it doesn't take long before we are just doing the Strangers 2008 stuff. You're getting the knocks on the door. You have, the girl out there, her face blacked out, asking is Tamara home. You've seen it, you know it, but now instead of bigger and badder, it's smaller and weaker and way dumber. Because let me put it like this. You have this couple that feels very out of place, fish out of water, not feeling like they can trust their circumstance because they know that a mechanic just sabotaged their vehicle, and now they're having to take up someone's recommendation for an Airbnb. They're out in the woods. They're completely isolated. And people are knocking on the door. They even comment on how odd this is given the time of the night and that they're not really near anything. So why is a woman walking through the woods and knocking on the door and asking if Tamara is there when this is an Airbnb? Of course, something very odd is going on. So gentlemen, if you have a sister, if you have a mother, if you've ever dated a woman ever, can you think of a scenario in which you are in an odd setting, people are banging on your door in the middle of the night, and your girl is going to say to you, hey, why don't you ride into town and get food? And gentlemen, if she did do that, would you just commit grand theft auto and be like, the Airbnb guy left his keys for his motorcycle here. I'm just going to lift this puppy and go get you some grub. And gentlemen, if for some reason all of this did occur, and then once you were in town and your girl started hearing more sorts of rummaging around in the house, she heard stuff clashing in the kitchen, she was seeing things, hearing things, do you think that your cell phone would remain silent? Or do you think that thing would be vibrating like crazy? Do you think your ringtone would be going off over and over again? Or if it was on silent, you would look down and see that you had 732 missed calls and a lot of text? Because I gotta tell you, there's no way my wife is letting me go into town after some freaking weirdo has been knocking on her door. Somebody may have sabotaged our car, and I've been adamant that that's what happened. She's gonna let me just stroll into town to go get a greasy hamburger and leave her there all alone in the woods. And once these things start happening, Madeline Pesch's character doesn't act like a living, breathing woman whatsoever. This had to be written by a man because there's no situational awareness here. There's no reality within this. This girl is freaked out of her mind. She's talking about seeing people. Earlier, they established that she has Wi-Fi connection. She has good connection. She has service because she FaceTimed with a friend from across the world. So when things start going bump in the night and she thinks that her little cabin is under siege, does she call her boyfriend? No. Does she text her boyfriend? No. Does she get back on FaceTime? No. Does she call 911? No. Who is this woman? Is there a brain in her head? Why is she now smoking weed? Why is she now lowering her defenses? Why are we still making these horror characters? I know Rennie Harlan is from the 80s. I know that was the peak of his like directorial career. But dude, Scream put an end to this stuff in 1996. We started roasting these characters back in the 90s. How is this character this flummoxingly stupid? And then she's all but certain somebody may have like gained access to her house. She's gonna go take a shower. And not even like a normal person shower, like a shampoo commercial shower, just like sitting there relishing in it under the shower head. Just really get a good lather. Get a good lather, Madeline, while the stranger is there looking at her. And of course, because this movie's so derivative, we can't create our own scares. And I give it to you. If I'm making a Strangers movie, I know I have to do the thing where our characters are unknowingly in the foreground or in the foreground and unknowingly there's a stranger in the background. I know we have to do that. But why on God's green earth would you compose the shot in such a way that there ain't a damn way your protagonist isn't seeing the freaking stranger? Because in this movie, they set up that classic shot of the woman in the cabin with old Baghead behind her. They set it up by having her playing a piano. Again, remember, she's supposed to be not rattled. Her nerves are going crazy, but let's just sit down and do a little piano song. She's doing that, but they have a mirror like right here, like right above her head. And in the mirror, you can see that the stranger has sat down in the chair behind her. He ain't being still. You see him move his arm and stuff. He's maybe even be rocking. I can't remember. How do you not see him if you're this girl? You're on edge? You think weirdos are outside your cabin? You think somebody may have gotten into the cabin? You don't call for help. You don't text for help. You don't ask for an update. Hey, hon, how much longer until you get home? You don't try to reach the Airbnb person. You just get naked and play some piano and you close your eyes the entire time you do it like Stevie Wonder or something, just swaying back and forth, not looking at the damn mirror where the stranger is. The mirror ain't even like up here or over here or anything. It's not like a shot where like we, the audience, can see it, but she can't. This is what we're dealing with. Like, how do you, as the cinematographer and director, not go, this doesn't make sense? Anyone with peripheral vision, like you don't even have to train. Like I'm looking at my phone right now as I record that. I can see the ring light. I can see the top of the door. I can see the little light up in the ceiling. I'm not even trying to. So if there's a mirror right here and a fucking 6'3" man with a bag on his head and a face drawn on it, I'm going to see it. So what I'm saying is, even when you do the beats you have to do and you try to do it your own way for once, you don't just rip shit off over and over again for once, you do it in just the worst way, just the dumbest way, in a way that makes you go, how did people collaborate on this? Set up the shot and I go, I think we need to retool this. All right, I'm going way too long. I'm sorry. I will try to get way more concise with this. Basically, eventually, Homeboy does finally make it home, and so he can partake in all the weird goings on with the strangers, and we really just start following all the same beats of the other movie stuff you can expect that you know is coming, except you get to watch him be the worst boyfriend of all time. I mean, there's a moment where he has a gun, and they know that one of the strangers just was like chopping down the door and then kind of backed away and is goading them out of a room, right? He has a gun. He's the man. He's behind her in the hallway, y'all. He is behind her. Ma'am, what are you doing with this boy? What are you doing? He ain't a man. What are you doing with this boy? He has a. Give her the gun then. Like if you ain't gonna run the point, you ain't gonna be in front of her. You can't have the gun and treat her like a human flesh shield. What are we? Okay, but speaking of the gun, if you've seen the original, you know what's gonna happen with the gun. They don't do the same exact way because like it's not a best friend. It's not Glenn Howerton coming, but basically, hey, good person strolls in, boom, blam, there goes his head. Now I've lost my nerve. And I'm just realizing I forgot to mention yet another just incendiary, just infuriating thing about this boyfriend character. We're going to talk about tropes. We're going to talk about being derivative. We're going to talk about being fucking foolish. They make this guy an asthmatic. Now, he's all swole. He's bodied up. Probably has great cardio. By the look of him, like I said, he's got a jawline made out of freaking Pittsburgh steel. But he's an asthmatic. And it just pops up in the worst of times. Don't you just hate that? Like, I literally rolled my eyes in the opening moments when they showed him taking out an inhaler, because I was like, oh my, they're going to use that thing. It's going to keep popping up. It's going to come up in the worst of times. It's just lazy writing. It is such lazy writing. Anytime you need something to swing back in the favor of the strangers, you just give them a little asthma attack. Again, I feel like we've known better than this. We've been skewering movies that do this for 25, 30 years at this point. How is this in a studio? All right. Ugh. All right. So anyway, from there, a lot of similar beats. You see the thing where they finally get into a vehicle. So what do we have to do? We have to do the truck shot where they get T-boned by the truck. And they don't get out and get in the truck because we haven't learned anything from the first movie. We wanted to remake it. We couldn't improve upon it, though. We couldn't make the obvious changes that we needed to make. No, we just had to keep repeating shit. So they don't take the truck. They get separated. These idiots are just floundering around in the woods. It feels like it takes forever. I was starting to get really fatigued and tired at this point in the movie, just praying that it might end. Praying that they might do something different, that we wouldn't be heading on a collision course for the same ending that we got in the 2008 version. And alas, we do. And it's so anticlimactic because when the strangers find these two, I'm pretty sure the girl just gets a little, she just gets it, just gets chinned, boom, fade to black, she's out. The boyfriend, guys, this boyfriend, oh my God, that gun that he's been toting around and he's not really managed to do anything with, he has it pressed to one of the girl strangers' freaking mask. And they do that old cliche movie thing, again, being derivative here, to where he can't pull the trigger. He keeps boasting at her that he's not afraid to do it. You know, he's man enough, all this shit. And the stranger's like, cool, bro, what the fuck? You need a written invitation? Shoot me, numbnuts. But he doesn't. And so he gets blindsided by the big male killer. And we get back to the same scene that we always knew we were heading to where they're tied up in the living room. And this is too funny, y'all. Because this movie opens with of course, the text saying that, you know, there's this many crimes in America every year, this many violent crimes. You're about to witness one of the most brutal. Y'all, nothing happens to these people except for a single stab each. Like, think about how long I've been talking. At no point in the rest of that runtime did they really sustain any like major injuries at the hands of the strangers. Like, homegirl gets a nail through her hand at one point, but that's her doing. A stranger didn't come up and like, nail gun. No, so one of the most brutal crimes of the year is this, jab. I've seen more brutal crimes happen on YouTube videos about Karen conflicts going wrong. And so then we do the whole thing where, you know, it looks like they die, Mal Pash screams, roll credits. The movie we've seen. Which really, again, begs the freaking question. Why did this movie need to be made? Why do we need to remake it? If we're ultimately going to do all the same old shit, but do it way less effectively and make me have an even greater appreciation for Brian Bertino as a horror director, if we're just going to do all that to get to the same freaking point, to have the same person surviving, why couldn't we just jump into The Strangers Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 from the get-go? Why couldn't we just bring Liv Tyler back? Why not just do that? You wasted my time. You wasted my money. And I know I'm not the only person that felt this because it was a pretty, you know, for a Thursday night, lately when you go to the theater, at least when I do, there's not a lot of people in there with me on a Thursday night. There are a pretty good amount of people and nobody's having a good time. When the lights came on, we all stood up. All you heard was people talking about, man, the first one was so much better. That sucked. That really let me down. That was bad. Or one guy like me, thank you, sir, for voicing what I could not, because I wanted to be quiet because it's a movie theater and I want to respect everyone else's experience. By like the second, third act, when they just made one erroneous, stupid, knuckleheaded decision after next, he just started going, ugh. God damn it. And I was like, yes, sir, you've hit the nail on the head. That's what they should put on the movie poster. The Strangers, Chapter 1. One critic says, that's this movie. So that's my experience. I don't know why I exist. I'm not excited for Chapter 2. I'm not excited for Chapter 3. Sadly, I think this movie's going to get its budget back. I think it's going to do well enough that we will probably get that. And this seems like the type of movie that would do well on streaming. If I had my druthers, it would just continued with like the weird Prey at Night formula of just throwing them into a different era or like a different type of subgenre of slasher or home invasion. Something more innovative than this. You can't even call this innovative. You can't call this fresh. You can't call this fun. You can't call this scary. You can't call this good. You can't call this necessary. You can just call this regretful. I'm being nice, so I'm going to give it a 1.8 out of 5. Those are my feelings on The Strangers. Almost said Prey at Night. On The Strangers Chapter 1. Let me know your thoughts down below. If you made it this far, thank you, because I know I've been talking for a very long time. If you enjoyed it, hit like, drop a comment, subscribe so you catch more natemareflix content. And one more thing I got to ask you to do. Would you have yourself a great day? I'm Nate for natemareflix saying that's a wrap.